Hey, sir, can you ask your better half if she can hear us? And she may have to sign back in, I'm not sure, but. Okay, test, test. Te- When it kicked out, yeah. When that exclamation point little message showed up there. She still can't hear it? What, say again? Well, you know, make her a panelist. Oh, Miss Bethany, can you send another note letting us know if you can hear us? Miss Bethany? Anybody on YouTube, if you can send a little message that says that you can hear us? Is our panelist on there right now? Okay. So Ryan, do you have their phone numbers by chance of the two panelists for that public hearing? That we can just give them a phone call with a cell phone to tell them to get back in? Oh, okay. And, okay. Well, she could still sign into she should be able to sign into the Zoom function there and get us at that point too, so. All right, we will continue with the city council meeting, and we had nothing on the public input. Do we have any committee reports from anybody on the council?
Mayor Chadwick, Matt with the Pathways and Beautification Committee, he intended to be here but was not able to make it. So he does have a report. I can give it later if you would like in my report, or I can do it now. What would you like?
We can do it. Let's do it now.
Okay, so let's see. The committee did approve some language for the dog park, like some rules, behavior things. And so how do you want that submitted from the committee? Should they email it?
Yeah, just email it to me.
Okay.
And make sure you get a copy of it too.
Okay. And then the same goes with sign for the Riverwalk regarding some dog waste pickup. So he's got a sign that
Okay.
he'd like to do that. And then we have a couple meetings scheduled with the irrigation districts to talk about if we can work together for public pathways. So very excited about that. And that'll be happening this week and next. And let's see, I also wanted to say that we will have a master pathways plan by the end of the year. So that's fantastic. And a design element plan will be presented to council also by the end of the year. And previously there was some Make Star Shine Day, which is a yearly rake day that senior citizens and people with disabilities, if they need assistance picking up leaves, they can request volunteers to come and pick them up. And if you'd like more information on that, please see the website. But that date that we'll be cleaning them up is the November 14th, not the 7th, as what was previously noted. And I think that might be on the website. So
It is
a
the
change.
14th?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the 14th. And then also thank you for Mayor for agreeing to have the Alzheimer's garden out front in October, or it was last month.
September.
September, yes. That was a big success, and there's little flowers out front and to recognize Alzheimer's. So that's all that he had. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee reports to be had?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys?
so the Transportation Committee met last week, and we've been working on an update to the Economic Corridor Access Management Plan. We've also been, Mr. Hopper's presentation earlier covered off on what we've been doing with the impact fee work.
Okay.
Yeah, we just continue to meet, and we're moving forward, making progress, getting some updates done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? No, good. All right, we'll move on to item 6A, which is the public hearing for the Sunfield subdivision annexation and zoning with a development agreement and preliminary plat. If real quick, if you haven't signed up and you wish to speak, I need you to sign up now in order to speak at the public hearing. I will give you some public hearing process. Some of you have already heard it. I will open the public hearing. I'll ask if there's any ex parte contact. The applicant in this project will have up to 20 minutes to present their project. The council will ask the applicant questions and staff questions. And we'll do some public testimony. We do have a person that signed up to be do testimony via Zoom, so we're going to have them testify last on there. We'll have an applicant rebuttal. Then the council can ask the applicant and staff more questions. I will close the public hearing and the council will deliberate. And then the council is either going to make a motion to approve with conditions, deny, or table the application to a date certain in the future. All right, with that said, I am going to open the public hearing on the Sunfield subdivision annexation. And I'm going to ask council if you have any ex parte contact or communication with this project.
No, Mr. Mayor.
No.
None.
None.
Okay, hearing none, then we'll have the applicant come up here and speak. Oh, actually, and I got your this is your presentation right here, correct?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. And please state your name. Oh, and when you come up to speak, please state your name and address for the record as well. And I believe you should be able to control this too with the clicker up there. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Dan Lardy, Levitt Associates, 1324 First Street South, Nampa, Idaho, 83651. So this evening, I'd like to present to you Sunfield Estates. It's on the south side of Beacon Light, the east side of North Wing Road. It is 26.1 acres. It's bordered by Star Acres subdivision on the southwest, the south and the west. It's zoned RUT with special transition overlay, and I believe we have folks in the audience this evening that are there. Nash Estates subdivision on the north, unplatted parcels to the east. Star Acres is zoned RUT. Our lot is currently zoned RUT, and we're asking for or requesting annexation and rezone to R3. So on the August 24th, we held a neighborhood meeting on site, and we had some neighbors show up that expressed their concerns. Some of their biggest concerns were lot size bordering, being that they're in that special transition overlay area. They requested some additional or some larger lots along our shared boundary, along our west boundary. The other concerns they actually asked about were originally we had the stubborn, is this a pointer?
I believe, yeah, there should be a red pointer.
See if I'm smart enough to use it. Oh, that's not it.
Right. Hang on, Ryan, I'll come and show you.
There it is.
You find it?
Thanks,
Okay.
Ryan. So our stub road was originally slated for right here. And it was at the request of ACHD to put in a stub road to the west. The neighbors requested that we move that. They would actually like us to remove the stub road, but unfortunately ACHD doesn't want to let that go. So we did move it up here, be south of that property line. So we also had some other concerns were stormwater runoff, sewer lift station that we're proposing, and then irrigation controls. As far as there is an irrigation ditch that runs here, and runs along our east boundary, and eventually ends up ponding here. There is a pond here currently. We've actually contacted the Army Corps of Engineer just for fun here, and we had the Army Corps come out and they determined that this was non-jurisdictional wetlands. So riparian area, yes, we could maintain it, and we are actually proposing a pathway along that side, leaving the waterway open as much as possible to take advantage of the natural beauty. So at that time, we submitted a preliminary plat that had third acre lots along that side after our neighborhood meeting. After speaking with staff and working with staff and listening to a previous hearing with the same neighbors on, I believe is it Canvasback, or it's over here, or I apologize. It's right in here somewhere. So with that, we went ahead and resubmitted. We revised our plat and went with half-acre lots per the neighborhood meeting request, and some of the testimony that was given at that hearing. So currently, our proposed density. Also along that side, since we went with those half-acre lots, we also we're happy to say that we can provide a restriction for single-story homes along that boundary that we share with our neighbors. So our gross density is 2.68 acres, or 2.68 units per acre, which earns itself the R3 designation. Let's see if I can advance this slide here. There we go. Is this a little easier to look at? So the future land use and the comprehensive plan actually slates this area as R3 to R5, low to medium density. We comply with that. We have provided 17% open space, 14.5% is usable. Most of it is the amenity along the outskirts here, taking advantage of that natural drainage way, and providing a paved pathway around. With some storm drainage will be retained on site, infiltrated via infiltration facilities. We actually show these on here. We don't show the trenches, but we actually have some drop inlets spaced through, along with some sand and grease traps, and those will be taken underground and infiltrated into the subsurface. We had some discussion with Star Sewer District, and the sewer lift station right here is what we were proposing, is not on their master plan, but they said it would be acceptable. Again, we're not asking them for any capital outlay. It would be at our expense to provide that. So in response to the staff report, they requested a qualifying amenity. And with that, we're proposing a tot lot on this common open space right there for a second qualifying amenity. Irrigation pump station is proposed to provide pressurized irrigation. It's up here currently. Has it discharged across the road? I believe it's right there. I have to squint really hard to see that. I'm sorry. Currently, the irrigation comes across, and we'll provide it into a pump station and provide pressure irrigation to our site, for our subdivision. Staff report has several neighbors provided written testimony. We have worked with staff and considered concerns that were asserted at the neighborhood meeting in August. We feel that we've attempted to address their concerns while complying with the future land use plan and the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance. I look forward to your deliberation and approval of this annexation and preliminary plat, and I can stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions of the applicant?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
the sewer lift station, is it anticipated it'll serve any other entity or individual aside from your subdivision?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Nielsen, So as far as we know, no, no request has been made of it to be extended or enlarged to create any additional capacity.
And it's designed at capacity for your sub only?
It will be sized according to Star Sewer, whatever they'd like us to size it at.
And then on your open space, 14.5%, it's pretty generous for a usable amount. I'm curious as far as, and I haven't pulled up our code definition. I'm just curious. So I think that we've gotten pretty specific in our code about that being developed open space. So maybe this is more of a question for staff, and if so, I can wait. But are you aware of its compliance with our code as written today?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Nielsen. So what we had decided was that this pathway, the reason why we proposed the pathway along the natural drainage pathway there, or the natural drainage way, is because it did qualify as open space, as usable open space. And I can stand corrected for staff if they want to iterate.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
So regarding the pathway, we are looking to create more of a public pathway system. And so with your pathway around the neighborhood, would you be willing to allow public access on the pathway?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Samuelson?
Tomlinson.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't see that as a problem. We do connect all the way around to Beacon Light. So I believe that it connects to public right of way, and I don't know that would be an issue. I better turn and check just to make sure. Oh, he agrees.
Okay, great. And then I also saw in the ACHD report that they recommended a 5-foot detached sidewalk along Beacon Light. So are you going to include that?
Mayor, Councilmember Samuelson.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So they've asked us to dedicate some right of way along Beacon Light, which we're doing. They haven't asked us to put in the street section though. They've asked us to do 17 feet of pavement and then no curb gutter inside, or no curb and gutter, and then detached sidewalk. And it was part of our proposal.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
So real quick, I want to ask staff, so why would ACHD not require them to do the improvements along Beacon Lot? Yeah. Along that section.
Oh, I'm on. I don't know. I would believe it's because of their future plans for that section of Beacon Line.
Okay. And I don't recall seeing it in there, but was there any mention about a contribution for that improvement besides the impact fees or anything?
No, are they taking any additional right away?
They're taking right, are they taking right away then?
Or compensating you, I guess, for right away?
Mayor Sean. So they are asking for the right of way. They're not asking for any additional compensation. I didn't see that in there for ACHD. ITD is a different story.
Okay.
I actually meant compensation to you guys. Are they buying the right of way or is it in there?
Not that I've heard.
Mayor Chadwick. So looking at the ACHD's report for, let's see, on page 5, which is in regard to the Beacon Light Road. It does state the applicant should be required to improve Beacon Light Road with additional pavement widening to total 17 feet from center line and 3-foot wide gravel shoulders abutting the site.
That's interesting. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions of the applicant? Or, go ahead. Councilman Keys. Okay. Councilman Hershey? Good for now. All right. Any further questions there, Ms. Jennifer, at this time? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the public testimony on here. Just a reminder, you got 3 minutes for public testimony. State your name and your address for the record. And we'll start with Mr. Will Eason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Will Eason. I live at 10174 West Star Acre Drive. My property is 5 acres directly abutting the west side of this proposed subdivision. This proposed development is surrounded by 5 to 7 acre parcels, most within a special transition overlay area. And the comprehensive plan calls for development next to the special transition overlay area to have larger setbacks, larger lots, transitions, buffers. This proposed development really doesn't address any of those. The comprehensive plan states larger setbacks should be required for new lots planned to abut existing special transition overlay areas. Setbacks within the urban lots should be similar to the special transition overlay lots directly abutting. As this subdivision is proposed, the lots are larger to us, but they're not deeper. They're the same depth as all the little lots in the middle. And they offer absolutely no more setback. The setback from the back property line is 15 feet. The houses in Star Acre are back, as you can see, 100 feet. So this development should have setbacks compatible with those in Star Acre. There should be bigger lots, larger setbacks. The developments that were done to the west side of Star Acres recently, the Greendale and the Canvasback went through, they required transition areas, buffers, larger lots. This development should be held to the same standards that they are. They should be directly abutting our property, minimum 1 acre lots and 100-foot setback. The comprehensive plan designates this area as neighborhood residential and says densities not exceeding 1 to 2 units per acre should be encouraged in these areas where new residential lots are proposed adjacent to existing residential lots of 1 acre or larger, and they're not likely to be developed, which is exactly the situation we have here. All the lots surrounding this are at least 5 acres. Star Acres can't be further developed. So this property shouldn't have a density any more than 1 unit per acre. And the lots adjacent to the outside, the large lots should be a minimum of 1 acre and a large setback, 100 feet. This property needs to be developed. It needs to be residential property, but it needs to be doing something that's consistent with the surrounding property. I mean, in my view, this is exactly the type of development that the comprehensive plan was meant to avoid. We have a small, high-density urban development in a low-density rural development.
About 15 seconds, sir.
We've got small lots in the middle of large lots. We've got less expensive homes surrounded by more expensive homes. I would urge the council to deny this and have a development done here that is more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman
I
Keys,
have a question for,
Mr. Easton, can you come back up here? Councilman Keys has a question for you.
so Mr. Eason, thanks for coming back. Am I correct in that the proposed stub road to the west abuts your property?
That is correct.
And because I read some of the letters and there was some suggestion that stub road be eliminated.
Yes.
But I wanted to make sure that if the council were to support a request to ACHG to eliminate that ultimately is going to limit your options. That basically is going to create a lot that would never be able to be developed, even if you changed your mind or some other buyer did in the future. And if that's the case, I just want to make sure that you understand that and want to make sure that you would still be good with that.
I am very good with that, and I would like your support, and would like to go to ACHD as well and have them remove this stub road into our property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
it's a question for Councilman Keys on that, and maybe for city staff as well, but I want to get this thought out there, right? So is it possible that instead of building the stub road, the area could still be left there and be finished as a
Grass.
common area so that that potential is preserved, but you wouldn't be able to notice by looking at it that there's just a stub road to nowhere.
That would ultimately be up to ACHD.
Right.
Usually like to have those stubs with the sign saying future.
So let me ask you this question. What was the purpose of putting it in there when you have a subdivision that is not going to develop in the future? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I think ACHD considers, forever,
Well, it's, I mean, it's,
yeah, but it's their policy.
okay, but we'll help fight that if we have to.
And we can make a recommendation
Okay.
to them, definitely.
Because I like that idea right there. If we have to do, if anything, there's no reason to put some in there. That's,
I mean,
this is gonna be an eyesore for everybody until such point that they actually need it.
I mean, if ACHD was to take it out
You
and
never-
you wanted to have that gap in there, like an easement or something, you could definitely do that.
Thank you. Did I answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Ms. Denise Eason?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm at 10174 West Star Acres with the other guy over there. Right up, backing up at this property. And I was actually going to address the stub road situation, the way they moved it to where if we, future development would eliminate our shop, it would eliminate some buildings. So I was concerned. I'm not going to go to that point because you addressed that point. I am speaking on an emotional level here. I've read the comprehensive plan. I like what STAR's vision was with respect to rural transition. And even though I'm talking on an emotional level here, I think it's still in line with the comprehensive plan. This particular property has been farmed for years. So it doesn't have any natural, it doesn't have trees. It doesn't have any natural, except for on the northeast side over there where the drainage is, it doesn't have any natural buffer between our 5-acre parcels. So when you go to develop this property, how do you transition between rural and urban? I love my split rail fence. I don't particularly want to look at a vinyl fence right there, and I would be up for a natural rural transition between the rural and the urban. And I think that the comprehensive plan calls for that. The natural area or the drainage area really is a tremendous habitat area you addressed public access into that. I'll tell you, the habitat and the wildlife that is in that little section of property is amazing. And maybe the Army Corps of Engineers doesn't care and maybe whatever, but I'm from Alaska and every little piece of water has to be preserved. I was kind of surprised when I got down here and they didn't. But it's an amazing piece of property, and to put a lighted pathway through that whole situation, I don't know, the natural beauty of it is STAR. The transition from rural to urban. It just seems like that the comprehensive plan asked for that. You skinny up the lots, you had 6 houses against my piece of property because it doesn't account for, you need to be, may add to where they add to their covenants to where you can have livestock and add rural feel to these properties that are abutting the rural area already. I'm a little cloudy in my thinking tonight, so if I'm rambling, I'm sorry there, but just again, more from an emotional standpoint of getting this rural transition through the whole area, because those subdivisions that are crammed in there right now with Greendale and the barracks up above the hill there and all of that, I don't, rural to rural, I think we can do that and make everyone happy. That's what I would like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steve Green?
Steve Green, 9999 West Star Acres Drive. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for this opportunity. My property is directly south of the proposed subdivision. My property line is the entire southern boundary. When the comp plan was updated a year ago, I and many of my neighbors, excuse me, attended every meeting and worked with Mark Butler closely regarding the Star Acres subdivision. To quote him from a phone conversation, he said, "What a great spot. This should be preserved. I have a new designation that I think will fit. called a special transition overlay area. Excuse me. Tonight, I'd like to share a few concerns I have with the Sunfield Estates. First, lot sizing. Star Acres subdivision was subdivided 47 years ago into 5-acre lots. We have cows, horses, orchards, pastures, outbuildings, and all things rural. I'm here to ask that the Sunfield Estates get tabled or denied on the grounds that it has not done an adequate job of transitioning lot sizes along the perimeter of Star Acres subdivision. Excuse me. A reasonable transition would be 1-acre lots and single-story homes, transitioning in size and value as you get further away from the overlay area. This requirement would be consistent with the direction given by council on October 6th for the Canvasback subdivision in situations where lots were directly abutting the overlay area. Next, storm drainage. I'm happy to hear that the storm drainage will be kept on site. I appreciate that. Please ensure that the development agreement addresses this requirement to manage stormwater on site and to prevent it from entering the swale. In this way, if the HOA violates this in the future, I have somebody to go back to in a way to enforce that. Open space. I believe a better solution for I like the open space that they're using along the swale. I think just a suggestion on open space would be to have the main open space around that pond that was mentioned closer to Beacon Light Road, utilizing large trees from the original homestead and the overgrown pond could be reclaimed where abundant wildlife currently reside, including pheasants, ducks, quail, turkeys, foxes, owls, and an occasional deer. The trail proposed, I like it along the swale. I think that's a good idea along the southern and eastern perimeter. And on the southern boundary, I think the trail users would get the advantage of using the trees that I have on my north property line. Please ensure the development agreement mandates lighting to be directed away from abutting properties so that I don't have lights shining towards my house and as well as others. Lastly, stub roads. This was already talked about tonight.
About 15 seconds, sir.
Okay, stub roads and the sign, this road to be extended in the future obnoxious when planned at already developed properties. We've explored this with ACHD and they said you can't leave a lot undeveloped for future use as a roadway because they only have a 10-year window that they have to use that road. And if they don't pave it now, they can't pave it in the future. The criteria they use in their policy manual to justify stub roads is very definitely can be challenged in this situation. And I ask for your support in our efforts to get that stub road eliminated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kirk Kraus.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Kirk Kraus, 9951 West Rolling Hills Drive. I'm here to support the comments of my neighbors. I'm more in the middle of this Star Acre subdivision and somewhat insulated from this, but I would like the council to consider the transition that was considered in the previous Canvasback and Glendale subdivisions. And, 1-acre lots would be a better transition area. I'm not sure about 100-foot setback, but that would be ideal. The council has referred to our area as a legacy area, which I feel it is. As Steve mentioned, it was developed 47 years ago. Please take that into consideration when you're considering this development. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have Ms. Cook online? She's not signed in right now? You guys have Ms. Cook's number by chance? I just want to make sure that we get her the opportunity. And then, Mr. Newell, did you want to speak at all? I know you signed up, but there's nothing on it. Okay, all right. So we'll give it just a second here so we can see, make sure that Ms. Cook. Yeah, we can, if she can't get into Zoom.
Get her on here.
Was she on there before? No? Okay.
I emailed her just to see if she was listening, and I know she doesn't watch her email like a lot of people watch their emails.
Okay.
That, like I said, I think.
That's the way we all should do it.
She's lucky.
Did Ryan get lost?
Call him.
We have to call Ryan to get him back in here. She not answering? So, Chris, she sent an email, and we sent her a link to get on. Do we just move on from there then?
You do have her letter
Oh, we do have a letter
in the
from her.
record, so.
So we should be all right there? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, Mr. Lardy?
Mr. Mayor, council members. Dan Lardy, do I need to?
No, you don't have to
repeat
say it
myself?
again. We're good.
I'm just checking. So we understand the concerns, and we thought we had heard correctly when we met with the neighborhood meeting. In the neighborhood meeting, they were 1 acre lots were briefly mentioned. Most of them said half acre or better or bigger. So we went with that. We followed that course of action. We feel that we comply with the comprehensive plan. We understand that this is a special transition area that we abut. We have provided half acre or better lots along that side. We can provide a berm and a split rail fence on the top of that, if that would help alleviate some of that, some of their concerns. Or, the 100-foot setback is not doable on those particular lots at this time. Again, the comprehensive plan, we comply with that and the zoning ordinance, and we'd like to try and get an approval.
Any questions of the applicant? Are you done? Just want to make sure.
I saw the look on your face.
I was like,
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor, I am. Thank
All
you.
Mayor
Yeah.
Chadwick.
yeah, Councilman Nielsen.
So the comprehensive plan, I guess I'd like to understand how you feel you're in compliance with it, where it calls out new abutting lots to be 1 acre in size or may include buffering. So how does a half acre lot comply with that?
It doesn't. As you stated, Councilman.
Oh, fair
Nielsen,
enough.
As you stated, no, it does not, does not comply.
Let's see, there's one other thing in here that I wanted to call out. I'm not seeing it right now either. So, all right. So and I also wanted to, one of the folks commented on lights directed away from adjacent properties. And that's something we've talked about quite a bit in applications about using, exterior lights on the house, recessed canister lights instead of ones that are mounted out that have the potential to shine directly, things like that. Would you be willing to put that in your design documents and require that of your builders to make sure that all lights are contained, prevented from shining out and up?
Councilman Nielsen, I believe the ordinance says that you have a dark sky
Yes.
policy. And yes, we're definitely willing to comply with that.
Okay, I'm not sure, I don't recall if the dark sky policy prevents it from shining outward toward neighbors, but the use of those canister lights or lights that, would block that outward and direct the light.
But either downlight or up, or instead of uplighting or outlighting.
Yeah.
Council Nielsen, make that a condition.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before I made it a condition, I wanted to make,
Yeah.
at least have the conversation. And I'll yield for now. I want to find this other.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys.
so I want to echo the comments of Councilman Nielsen about new abutting lots to be 1 acre in size or may include buffering. That's from 8.5.4A and 8.5.4E says that larger setbacks should be required for new lots planning plan to abut existing special transition overlay lots. So in the past and you said you watched the video from our last meeting, where we have talked about half-acre lots, there's always been a large buffer between the half-acre lots and the special transition area. In this case, there's no buffer at all. For me, I'm gonna be honest with you. If I don't have a lot more buffer, the half-acre lots are not gonna get an approval for me. I'm gonna hold out for 1 acre lots. Because I do think that this area does demand that. And I'm really kind of curious. We heard a testimony from the neighbors to the south and to the west. And has there been any discussion with the neighbors to the east? Are those lots likely to develop in the future? Do you know, or do you have any idea what's going on there?
I think they use it for commercial.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Keys, Sean, the neighboring the neighboring parcel is actually, I believe it's a horse corral. It's RUT, but I believe they run a horse ranch there. No comment has been made for them. They've been invited to neighborhood meetings. No response from them, no input whatsoever from them.
Okay. And then, so from the buffering, for me, I'm just being honest with you. If we don't have 1 acre lots there, then I'm going to need some significant buffering, like 50 feet of buffering before we get to the 1 acre lots, or excuse me, to the half acre lots, or this, I'll never vote to approve it any other way. There was some discussion about the path. I think that path is a great idea, although there was also discussion about a lighted path. I don't think we want to light that path, do we?
Councilman Keys, no discussion about lighting that path, and nor do I believe it's required by city code.
Right. No, I think it was in a public testimony, and I was wondering if a comment was made in a neighborhood meeting or something, but I wouldn't want that path lighted.
I think it's always a concern. I just think they wanted to make sure that it was in public record, but no inclination of lighting that path has been mentioned.
Okay. And in terms of keeping that path available for public use, would you be willing to put an easement on the pathway for public use in the development agreement? Okay.
Yes.
And also, I'd like to have some, to echo the words of my other counselors about fugitive lighting. And I would like to require that we have some stronger language in there about fugitive lighting for the neighbor lots. And I wouldn't want that as a condition of approval. I actually want that in the development agreement because I think that is a little easier to enforce going down the road. So that's what I have to say. So thank you.
Okay. Any other comments to the applicant?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
So I did find the other spot here in the comprehensive plan that I was looking at. And this may be where the applicant is deriving their sense of compliance with the comprehensive plan. In section D there, it talks about this transition to urban density from the, in the special transition overlay area. And one of the options in there, it says that it may include the provision of 1/2 to 1 acre size lots directly abutting the special transition overlay area lots. So it appears to me that our language is not consistent. However, I want to call out that before, well before we even started on this part of the comprehensive plan, the council had contemplated this particular sense of transition. And in my recollection, it was always a conversation of 1 acre lots and never a half acre. So I'm going to call out that maybe somebody snuck some language in there.
I didn't do it.
You probably didn't do it. But I think our intent here is pretty clear on that. Then the very next section, E, it says that larger setbacks should be required for new lots planned to abut existing special transition overlay area lots. So whether you do the larger setback and half acre lots or full acre lots that directly abut, I think, as Councilman Keys said, that's probably more acceptable than what we have before us now. And then on last thing on the fugitive lighting, I wonder if it's sufficient to go in the development agreement. I wonder if we also need language in the covenants for the homeowners association, because as people, finish off their backyards and so forth, they may end up put up flood lighting or top of fence lighting and things like that. So I think we need some conditions in there that would prohibit that.
Councilman Nielsen, I believe that's totally doable.
Any further comments? or
Yes.
discussion?
Yes,
Councilman-
please.
Councilwoman?
Thanks for bringing up the CCNRs. Back to the pathway issue. Is it possible, some of the neighbors have, I know that you agreed to putting that in the development agreement or condition of approval that it'll be allowed for public use, but sometimes neighborhoods put up a sign that says for residential use only or for residents only. And so I don't know if you can put something in the CCNR that says, that sign isn't prohibited for boards down the road, that they don't, put those signs up. So that's what I had. Thank you.
Councilman Simonson, if it goes in the CCNRs, it'll have to be enforced by the HOA. So unless the HOA decides not to follow the CCNRs, then I guess that's probably an enforcement issue for you guys
Okay.
or civil action.
Mayor Chad, oh, you finished?
Yep, I am. Thank
Mayor
you.
Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
Just to follow on there from Councilwoman Selmanson, our Star City Code in the open space section, it says land designated as common open space may be conveyed to the city where the city council agrees to accept conveyance. And generally, I wouldn't suggest that we consider that, but where this is, open space that's going to be unimproved, it's designated as a non-jurisdictional wetland, I guess, with a single path. If the applicant feels like that might be a good thing to do, maybe that's something that we could consider in this particular situation. Just throwing that out there.
Okay. Councilman Hershey, anything?
It would simply be repetitive.
Okay. And I just want to, I'm just going to point out real quick, Mr. Lardy, that, I echo what everybody said. When we were talking about the canvas back and we listened to that, I made the talk last week about the half acre and the 1 acre. And I think, is it Miss Cook's lot that's on the corner down there that it butts exactly right up next to that canvas back? And I'm requesting that to be 1 acre, right? It's the same thing here. I mean, we got to be consistent in this, and I would request that to either be 1 acre or have that transitional stuff like Councilman Keys was talking about, right? That buffer in there, because we got to, these guys, I mean, the subdivision's been around for 47 years, right?
Right.
And then people have been there, and we also need to look at placement of the homes, I would guess, right there. So they're not like right next door, because they've enjoyed that serenity forever. And we all understand it's going to develop, but it's just how we develop it, right? And make it viable and attractive in there for everybody in the long run, right? And so that's where I would echo what Councilman Keys was saying, basically 1 acre lots or the buffer in there to do that half acre lot.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Mr. Mayor, as I can kind of take a temperature of the council here and kind of see that we're kind of leaning negatively, I would ask before we get denied or ask to be tabled, if that would be an option for you to actually work with staff again and work with the neighbors.
I would absolutely encourage a tabling, in my opinion, to work through these challenges and situations and the concerns of all the neighbors.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I believe because we have a fairly good plan here, there's no reason to deny, but tabling is a better option in my mind. With conditions, but
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys?
so actually that was the next question I was going to ask, because, we close the public hearing, we start deliberations, and it's like, oh, are you open to us tabling this thing? And so I've taken to starting to ask that while the hearing's still open. So sounds like you're open to tabling.
Councilman Keys, I was trying to find the right term or the right opening to place that comment about asking for tabling.
And then about how much time do you think you need? 8 weeks?
Before we go there. Can the applicant speak?
It's part of the rebuttal, if it's new testimony.
Yeah, it's got to be part of the rebuttal.
what's already been said. The applicant could do that. whether it's-
Councilmember Keys' point.
It's just not hang on one second, it's just not new testimony, right?
Doing new testimony,
He
then
should-
we've got
he
to
should come to
let
the
everybody else.
Huh?
You should come to the mic.
Yes, I know. So yes, if it's rebuttal to what has been said, or you can,
It's addressing some of the
Okay,
concerns that
you
have been
could-
brought up by council.
you come up to the microphone though, please,
Name and address.
and name and address.
I am Don Newell, applicant, 1950 South Channel Way, Eagle, 83616. The concerns of the council and of the neighbors is understood. A 50-foot buffer, if we can decide that that's what would be required in lieu of 1 acre lots, we're happy to do that. I mentioned to Dan that we'd be happy to put a berm on top of that, or at least adjacent to these properties, and a split rail fence on the west side of the property. And I think the other items about lighting and whatnot are probably covered in some ordinances, or we can certainly add them into our CCNRs if required or necessary.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. And we don't want to be tabled if we can get an approval based upon that.
Okay, any further questions of the applicant? Do you want to ask the applicant a question?
No, I've got just something for council after you're done with it.
Okay. Anything else of the applicant? No? Okay, thank you, sir. Sean, do you want to?
Mr. Mayor, just to address Councilmember Nielsen's question about the comp plan, that 854D. I'm looking at it again. I think what it's trying to do is to provide options on a case-by-case basis. That's kind of what it gives several different options. One of them would be the provision of 1/2 to 1 acre size lots directly abutting. I think that'd be more appropriate if you had maybe a large field rather than the houses being close. So it provides for buffers, so there's like 3 or 4 things. I think that's what was the intent of that. If that's something that we want to look at while we're redoing our comprehensive plan text, we can bring that up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions of staff before we close the public hearing?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
Realizing the applicant would really prefer a decision tonight, I think that we probably could condition a decision tonight appropriately. But I guess before I advocate for that or contemplate that further, I'd like to understand what do we do with that stub road? You know, does it make sense for us to table this and work on that with ACHD? Or can we make a decision and still work on that with it? Does that complicate things if we make a decision tonight without that cleared up?
I don't think it does. ACHD is going to ultimately make that decision. Do you have a?
Mr. Mayor, Sean, Councilman Nielsen, we're totally fine with doing away with that stub road. It does nothing for us. Unfortunately, it does inconvenience the neighbors, and a lot of discussion has gone into that road. And ACHD is just not in agreement with getting rid of it. However, if you guys were behind us or behind the neighbors, I'm sure they would probably feel free to wipe it out.
So I believe that the applicant's option is to appeal that to their commission. Is that what, to ACHD's commission to get that removed? Is that?
Yes, and I believe the neighbors have actually already had conversations with, and I believe they're trying to get on a hearing for removal of that road.
And we can participate in that hearing too with our.
Yeah, we can send a letter to the
Yeah.
So
ACHD commission.
the root of my question though, really, because this application is also an approval of preliminary plat, does that weaken the position of the applicant, the neighbors, or the city if we go into that having approved a preliminary plat with that stub road versus not approved the preliminary plat?
I don't believe so. I believe you can condition it that you fall to what ACHD ultimately decides. I don't think that alone should stop you from approving it.
Right, and mayor, members of the council, one of the things you've been kind of talking about is having them redraw that boundary anyway, whether it's going to be acre lots, whether there's going to be a buffer or combination or whatever that's going to look like. I don't know how quickly ACHD will make their decision, but you'll have some sort of revised plat that'll be different than what you have tonight anyway. And so I agree with what Sean's saying is that you could approve this plat and you could even have a condition of the plat's approved with or without that road. depending on what ACHD requires. And then that gives the flexibility for the applicant, the residents, and even the city to that extent, if they want to go to ACHD and ask for it to be removed. But approving it tonight with conditions, even with whether that road's there or not, is not going to be a challenge going forward because you're going to get something back anyway. And so that revised plat can be done maybe even hopefully at the same time, that either changes those lots or puts the buffer in, and that road is either there or not there, depending on HDC's decision.
Okay, thank you.
And then one further thing, if you do move towards approving it with the condition on the redesign, be specific on what you want to see, width of the buffer, size of the lots. I didn't hear anything about if that buffer would include the extension of the pathway through that, or if it's just strictly a buffer. So just make sure that that's discussed in your motion and decision. So staff can, write the conditions and the neighbors understand what's being proposed and everything.
Or I'm just gonna throw this out there, you could table it, and I know they don't want to table it, but you can table it so you can see what it looks like and everybody has a chance to look at the new.
Yeah, it was,
The new thing and speak about it in a hearing.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Keys,
So,
are we done asking staff questions or is this just, because I could close the hearing? Is this deliberation? Or is this?
I just want to clarify something with the applicant. So,
Okay.
So I asked a question earlier and maybe I was listening to too many things. I didn't get the answer, but if we table this, is this something that you think that you'd want tabled for 6 weeks, 8 weeks? How long do you think it'll take to get together and do what we need to do? And,
Yes, sir.
If that were the case.
Wait, I just come up here because we got it, I want it on the record there, please.
If that were the council's decision, which I would prefer not, we would be prepared for the next meeting.
Which would be November 17th because we won't have one on election night.
As long as we're before trilogy. I'm kidding. A little humor.
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff before I close the public hearing? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I have one question. How, I'm trying to understand what 50 feet looks like. Can you give me like a road width is 60 or 36 feet is a,
It's about from here to the wall on
This-
the other side of the hall.
okay,
That's the 50-foot, yeah.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of staff?
No.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and we're going to go to council deliberations.
yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hershey.
I think, let's see, I had this all perfectly planned in my head a minute ago. I believe that a lot of this is doable, but, just like Councilwoman Salmonson said, what is the 50 feet? I mean, I can look at it and see what it is. But, the neighbors all came, they've wrote letters and they all have general concerns that are similar. And I believe our applicant is very willing to do what they have to do. And for the record, I don't care if we bury that stub road. I mean, but I would like to have a more definitive answer from ACHD rather than us just saying, well, this is what we'll be cool with, but you have to comply with what ACHD says. I'd love to have just another shot at them coming back to us. So I'd also like the neighbors to have a say in if 50 feet is going to work with a berm. I don't know if this is start looking like a fort with a parapet around it and all that, but either way, it's not tabling for a very long time. I think the 17th is fine. It gives a second chance for everyone to take a look, and I believe we're about 80% there. I think it's a little nudge here and a little polish there, and this might be a very, very good development. So I'm for tabling.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Keys.
So first I want to clarify, when I said 50 feet, I didn't mean exactly 50 feet. I was just throwing that out as an example of, we've seen a 50-foot roadway and a 20-foot berm over on the other side. I just threw out 50 feet. I'd actually like to see the applicant get with the neighbors and ask them, would they really rather have a buffer strip and half-acre lots, or would they rather have 1-acre lots? With no buffer. I think, I think either one of those is viable probably for the council, but I would like to have the neighbors weigh in on that. I'd also like to, let's see, we talked about some items to add to the development agreement. So if we're getting with staff, want to make sure that those items get captured, as well as retaining the single story requirement for the homes, whether on half-acre, 1-acre, that are along that area. But at this point, I think we need to table this, probably till November 17th, and that's what I'll support.
Any other deliberation?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
first of all, I'd like to thank the applicant for, I appreciate you starting out being aware of things that we had already discussed with these neighbors in the past and coming to us, in that spirit. I think that moves us ahead quite a bit. So, I'm open to either type of decision here tonight, whether it's a table or not. It sounds like we are heading toward a tabling. But I feel like the things that we've talked about put us on a path forward, and hopefully we can get that resolved quickly.
Mayor Chadwick, so I too would support tabling it. I think that the applicant is, willing to work with the neighbors and, figure out that those lots there next to the neighbors. So I encourage you to do that, and I would like to see them as a 1-acre or significant buffering with the neighbors. That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor?
Hang on I just want to make a comment here real quick before you make a motion, but I say you don't hold this to ACHD's approval or denial of that stub road, because we can't control when their commission's going to meet or place it on an agenda. Right? But if you're going to do it, just have it as a condition or in the development agreement or whatnot. If ACHD says that, or if we can negotiate with them to get rid of that stub road, then we can get rid of that stub road. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Keys?
So I'd like to make a motion that we table the public hearing for Sunfield subdivision annexation and zoning development agreement and preliminary plat until November 17th. I'd also like to add in the motion that we have staff write a letter to support the elimination of that stub road to the west to ACHD. I don't think we're in a position to deny it, but we can support them changing their mind. And I would like to have the applicant work with the neighbors to come up with the most mutually agreeable solution we can.
Between half-acre lots and 1-acre, or?
Well, we've discussed two options. They may come up with a creative third. I'm not gonna, limit them to that, but so.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
I always get a little nervous when we put things back in the hands of, go work it out amongst yourselves and then come back to us. And so I would like to propose Councilman, or ask Councilman Keys if you would amend your motion such that if they can't come up with a resolution together, that whatever proposal comes back is in complete compliance with our comprehensive plan. As we've talked about, its language and intent here tonight.
Half-acre, are we going to say half-acre with a buffer or 1-acre? I mean, I feel that kind of opens it up to a whole bunch of different things, right? Chris? Is that okay? Okay.
That's fine. I mean, the more direction you give, the more predictable it's going to be for both the neighbors and the applicant on what they need to do to come back. And so I think that that's helpful, whatever that looks like. We've already identified, I think, as part of the hearing tonight, that there's maybe some inconsistencies in our comp plan. And so just saying comply with our comp plan may not give them enough guidance, but it's the council's motion.
Okay,
I guess I felt like the spirit of the comp plan that we talked about tonight was that extra guidance. But if we need to get more specific, I would prefer that we have a motion that does get specific than one that just generally says, work it out with the neighbors and come back with an agreement.
Councilman Nielsen, or Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Keys.
So Councilman Nielsen, would you be, if we amended the motion to say that, that the neighbors work with the applicant and, see if they can come up with a preference for either 1 acre lots with no buffer, or half acre lots with a significant buffer, and figure out what that looks like and see if we can get a clear preference from the neighbors?
I think that works for me.
Okay, then I'll amend my motion accordingly.
And my second is amended accordingly.
Okay, so we got an amended motion, amended second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that public hearing is tabled till November 17th. Is that the correct date? Yeah, November 17th. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6B through F. We are going to move 6B down to the bottom. 316 Inspiration Homes. Yeah, can we dismiss the rules all at once, Chris, on this?
I think as long as the motion is clear of which ordinance you're talking about and then it's obviously.
Okay.
I don't think there's any problem with doing it that way. Just again, as long as it's clear that it's, you probably have to name every motion or
Name every ordinance in there. Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah, we're moving item B down to the bottom.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Keys?
I think I'm going to have a little discussion on 317, so we might want to do that one separate.
Oh, that's true. Gotcha. Okay, that's, we can waive all the rules.
Okay.
Oh, all right, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hershey,
All right, I'm going to do, this is just waiving the rules.
correct.
All right, I move that pursuant to Idaho Code Section 50-902, the rule requiring an ordinance be read on 3 different days with one reading to be in full be dispensed with, and that ordinances number 316 Inspiration Home Subdivision Rezone, Ordinance 317 City Code Amendments, Ordinance 318 Boardman Annexation, Ordinance 319 Openshaw Annexation, and Ordinance 320 Haven Ranch Annexation be considered after reading once by title only.
We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second that.
I'm like, really? We have a motion and a second. Any
We have so
further,
many motions and seconds down there. It takes,
know.
we're delayed on this end.
any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys?
I have a question for council. Given that I have an interest in the outcome of one of these ordinances, should I abstain from this entire motion, from this vote?
This is just dispensing the rules, right?
I understand. I'm just
Yeah, it's
trying,
probably
I'm
best.
trying to be clean here.
Yeah,
So,
probably best.
City Attorney,
then I will abstain from when I call on roll call. I will
well, it won't
just-
be roll call, it'll be just a,
It's just an aye.
just a voice
Okay,
vote.
then I'll be abstaining.
Okay, any further discussion?
Mayor Chadwick. So I have abstained also from the item 6B. So shall I abstain from this also?
You can still agree to waive the rules. You don't personally have a financial interest. I recognize you didn't participate in the discussion, but that doesn't mean you can't. Now that the decision's been made and all you have in front of you is an ordinance that's basically memorializing the decision that the other council members made. So I think you're okay participating if you choose to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we got a motion and a second and several discussion points. Any further discussion? Okay, council, or I'm sorry, Sean?
One addition, Mr. Mayor, on item B, or excuse me, item, sorry.
Well, we're just dispensing of the rules, so
Okay,
when we get to that one, then we will do that one. What you're talking about. I know where you're going. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We got one abstain.
Mr. Mayor, for the record, I'm abstaining from this vote.
Okay. So that motion carries. And we'll move on to item 6C, the ordinance city code amendments. Did you want
You
to?
start with 316?
No, we're gonna do his last at the end.
Oh, okay, my fault.
I guess it doesn't
Mayor
matter, though, does
Chadwick.
it? No, I guess it doesn't matter. We'll stick with 6B.
Okay.
So we're going to move on to ordinance number 316, Inspiration Home subdivision rezone.
All right, Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hershey,
I move that we approve ordinance number 316, Inspiration Home subdivision rezone, an ordinance rezoning certain real property located in the city of Star owned by Irene Wilson and Inspiration Homes LLC, a 9.8 acre parcel specifically located at 864 North Star Road, Ada County parcel S0408233800. Rezoning with a property from rural transition RT to to residential R7-DA with a development agreement, amending the zoning map of the city of Star to reflect such changes and providing an effective date. And I think I can only get 1 second on that.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
This ordinance lists a deceased owner of the property. Do we need to identify a legal entity that is not deceased?
Mr. Mayor and Council, on the development agreement, there is a benefactor that will be signing on their behalf. That
So we don't, Chris, we don't have to,
That certificate.
I don't think you need to make any changes. That's where the application came in, so that's the way it's being approved. As Sean indicated, the non-agreement attached one is signed by the right person. The change in ownership hasn't changed the parcel. We still know what parcel's being considered. And that's the key piece of the ordinance is annexing zoning, or rezoning that parcel. So I think we're fine with that.
okay, and then we also have we're missing one parcel number, correct?
Mr. Mayor and Council, staff would just like to get on the record that we'll be adding an additional parcel number to that ordinance. So there's 2 parcels total on that property.
But it's the same thing we looked at, reviewed, and approved.
Correct.
And I maintain my motion.
Are you, Councilman Nielsen, you good?
I have another question. I'm not sure it's pertinent to this, so if it's not, then, just tell me and we'll move on. But as part of this application, it was talked about that Mrs. Wilson would be able to remain in that property and therefore the front part along Star Road would not develop. Is that changed now? And
Mr.
is that pertinent to the,
It's not, that the condition is still in place that that's required to be part of the preliminary plat, so that stays. It's just the timing will probably be moved up.
okay,
We still good with your second?
I'm still good with it.
Okay, just want to make sure. All right, any further discussion? Okay, I'm going to do a roll call vote.
Do I call him even though?
Just call him and he can just say he's abstained.
Okay. Councilman Hershey,
Aye.
Councilman Keys,
Abstain.
Councilwoman Solmonson,
Abstain.
Councilman Nielsen.
Aye.
And we're good with both of them abstaining, right, Chris? Because we have the majority of the council here. All right. Hearing all ayes and 2 abstains, that motion carries. Ordinance number 316 passes. On to item 6C, ordinance number 317, city code amendments.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen,
I move that we approve ordinance number 317, amending city code, an ordinance of the city of Star, Ada, and Canyon Counties, Idaho, amending titles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 of the Star City Code, updating definitions, updating meeting notices and council positions, making minor changes to regulations governing city officers and employees, updating city election procedures, updating procedures for referendums and initiatives, deleting redundant sections, streamlining and updating liquor, beer, and wine and catering permit regulations, making minor changes to vendors, solicitors, and temporary merchants, removing codes preempted by state law, making minor changes to animal control and parking restrictions, removing outdated code sections, and providing an effective date.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second it. I believe there's discussion.
We have a motion, a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Keys.
So when I read through the ordinance, I actually sent council a couple questions about that. My questions were about the license fees. Why were we changing the license fees in 2-2A-5 for liquor licenses from $225 to, was it $560 something? Apparently, I learned that that was something that the statute now allows. I did a little research and I see that the cities around us have actually made that change as well. So after asking that question, that's something that I was good with. The other question I asked was why we're changing the hours of operation from those facilities from 2 a.m. to 1 a.m. And the answer I received back was that the statute had moved them to 1 a.m., but that we could retain them at 2 a.m. if we chose to. And I see no reason to change them. I'd like to leave them where they are. I think that those establishments are having a hard enough time right now in a COVID environment. And I would like to not amend the operating hours of those establishments so they would have to close at 1 a.m.
Okay, any further discussion?
Well, we have a noise ordinance, so that goes in effect at what, 10 p.m., 2200? Big hand on the 12, little hand on the 8 for the Marines. And so
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
I think my only concern, and I'm not sure if it's a concern or not, so I guess it's a thought. If all the cities around us are closed at 1 a.m. and Star's open until 2 a.m., will that potentially provide a negative impact on the city of Star? As now, I know it may be a business impact positively for those business owners, but do we want to encourage folks who are out that late to collect in the city of Star for that final hour?
Councilman Nielsen? Speaking from a past life that I used to have, last call is always generally 20 minutes before the closing time, so they wouldn't really have a chance to even get there in time.
Well,
Not-
and I
unless
wanted
that's
to say, I'm not sure the other cities changed their time.
Correct.
Right.
Just changed their fee.
Yeah,
structure.
and I would just
don't-
note that the reason I put it on, the reason I included this in the change was specifically so the city could have this conversation, because this is one of the few areas where the city code is, I guess, slightly different than state code. The fees obviously have been low for a while. And the hour change is just a reference that the state code generally says 1 o'clock, but specifically says the cities can increase that to 2. And I think most cities have. My understanding is in Boise and other places, they have a 2 o'clock close. So the proposal wasn't, let's bring Star back in line with where all the other cities are, as much as it was, here, this is something for the council to consider and decide what to do with that last hour. I imagine Chief has some thoughts on whether or not a 2 o'clock close is a crime issue or a safety issue for the city, but
Is that when he's on duty or off duty?
I was thinking on duty.
Okay.
Mayor Chadwick, I also did some research on this and looked at surrounding cities, and they do have in their code 2 o'clock for that closing time. And let's see, the other item, and then I also looked at the Beer Guys, our local alcoholic establishment, I guess. But on their website, it states that their hours, they close at 2 a.m. And so I don't know what it is right now. I see if it's 1
It's 2.
o'clock or 2 o'clock right now.
It's currently 2 in our code.
Okay.
He was just giving us the option to change it if we needed to for state.
Okay.
Well, like I
statute.
said, I wasn't sure if it was a concern, it was more of a thought. I would be interested if we can hear from our police chief, if he has a thought on this. Or his deputy, or both.
Mayor, Council, Jake Vogt, Chief of Police here in Star, Idaho. It's my understanding that currently state law says closing has to be 1/2 hour prior. So basically 1:30 for a 2 o'clock close. is my understanding of the law. So I am not aware of any other cities that have dialed it back to 1 o'clock. And I'm just basing that off of the assumption that I believe we would have heard that, amongst discussion amongst officers. So my lack of not hearing that, my assumption is it's still the same elsewhere.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Any further discussion?
Let's just
Can we
leave
get
it
a
at-
less diplomatic police chief?
Well, when I was in New Orleans, they had to close the bars promptly at 4 AM, but they had opening times at 5 AM because they're responsible.
So do we need to modify our motion to change it back to 2?
You could do a substitute motion, or you could amend the motion.
I'll amend the motion to what was that, Councilman Hershey? Yeah. To put that particular line item back to 2 AM.
Okay. We got a minute second.
I amend that second, yes.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Chadwick. I have a question for Chris. Excuse me. Title 5, Chapter 3, Motor Vehicle Emission Control. That section was deleted. I just want to verify that that can be done. That
Be
it doesn't-
deleted?
Yeah, that it doesn't need to be included in our city code.
Correct. It's managed by the county and it's elected by the voters. So it's actually not something the city regulates. It's regulated at the county level. And so Ada County requires all the emissions. And so that's why we're taking it out of the code. It doesn't mean that people in Star don't have to do emissions testing anymore. It's just done at the county level instead of the city level.
I think there's a separate JPA that covers all that.
Yeah.
And then also, Chris, could you explain, let's see, in section 4.4 or 4-4-25, you included a note in your comments that says the state code provides immunity for certain government actions. I didn't understand what that meant.
Sorry, Sharon, which section was that again? Sorry.
Yeah, 4-4-25.
Habitual violator.
Okay, yeah, so there's a state statute that grants immunity to local government all government officials when they're acting in the course and scope of their jobs, as long as they're not acting recklessly or with willful and wanton conduct and endangering life and safety and those sorts of things. So I just wanted to, that's already in state law. And so having something that would otherwise provide immunity or something for the cities is unnecessary. So I mean, it's redundant because it's a state code rule anyway. So what we had in there, what we took out, that was the city immune from liability section. I took it out because it's already in state code. And so putting it in city code doesn't add anything. And actually the state code provisions are much broader than what the city code provision was or is currently in. In a few minutes, maybe was.
All right, thank you. And then I just had some general questions for staff, I guess. So section 7-1-2B states inspectors will submit a written report at first meeting of each month as to the inspections made during the month preceding. Are they currently doing this? Because I haven't seen such a report.
It's a report to these, and to internal report. It's not a report that comes out to council.
Okay, because it said that it's provided to council in that section.
Yeah, the city code has always required that those reports be presented. I think historically, like years ago, they may have been included as part of the packet or emailed out to the council. And maybe probably should be just so the council knows. It's not intended that they necessarily come and stand at the podium and report every month. But you are correct. That is where the way it's worded is the report in writing to the council at its first meeting each month. That's the number of inspections they've done and that sort of thing. And so it may be something that could be started again.
Sorry to add the work.
So let me just ask the question, what are you going to gain out of that report? If we
Or it
have
could be
more?
removed. from the
Okay.
code. So if you'd meet it quarterly or annually or never, that, there's no statutory requirement that they provide a monthly
Okay,
report.
so I guess if we're okay not receiving it, then I think that we should take it out of the code.
Well, before we do that, there is this concept of contracted inspectors and appointed inspectors. And I think perhaps we should direct the report to be required of inspectors that are appointed because they serve at the pleasure of the council.
Yeah, and these are all contracted inspectors.
I should say at the discretion of the council, not the pleasure. Although it pleases me that they serve.
So
Any
I'm-
further questions or comments?
So I'm sorry that they are, they're not appointed. Is that what?
Correct, they're contracted.
So I guess I would be in favor of deleting that.
Requirement?
Yeah,
Staff receives a report for payment purposes to verify what they've done with what we're received in money, right? They would have to compile it a different way to get it to you guys.
right. And I mean, if it's in our code, it seems to me like we need to follow it. So if it's something that we don't necessarily need, then I think we should delete
So
that.
is it in here to remove it or is it in here to, I'm trying to remember what we discussed.
As
when we-
currently written, it stays. So this is, I don't know if I have page 17 of 19. And there was not a recommendation to remove it. And so there's a couple options. One, it could be that they do monthly reports to the city clerk or something, so it stays at City Hall, but there's a report. It could just be removed generally, because I think you probably have a way to get to the numbers if you want them, without too much trouble. As the mayor said, they provide that information so they can get paid on a regular basis. Or, so you could delete it, you could modify it, or if you keep it, then they should be sending you something in writing every month. So it's Mayor 7-1, section,
7-1-2.
yep, right above that, where you are, Mayor.
He shall make a
There we
thorough
go.
and complete inspection of
Yep,
any
right
work done under permit issued by this code and shall report in writing to the city council at its first meeting in each month as to the inspections made during the month preceding and pay to the city treasurer at such time all fees collected in the same period. So that, to me, that means they're up here, they're reporting and they walk over and they hand a check to Meredith.
So-
As acting city treasurer.
My recommendation would probably be to amend this, put a period after the word code in the second line of that sentence, Councilman Nielsen just read. So he shall make a thorough and complete inspection of any work done under permits issued by this code, period, and then delete the remainder.
Correct.
Yep.
I'm in favor of that.
And then I have one more question.
But before we move
Okay.
on there, I'm not sure that I'm, again, on appointed inspectors, if you look up on item A, appointed inspectors shall hold office at the discretion of the city council. I think that any officer that serves at the discretion of the council should be accountable to the council and should provide a report. So I'm not sure what that report ought to look like. Maybe it's an annual, maybe it's a quarterly, whether it's in person or written. I guess it really doesn't matter, but I think that there is an accountability there that needs to stay in the code. Just for appointed inspectors.
How about we change it to quarterly in writing?
Not for everything.
Well, no, just for that,
For the appointed?
yes,
Okay, as long as it's appointed, because it creates more work
yeah.
for an already overworked staff that we currently have.
Not trying to create work here.
Mr. Mayor?
And honestly, if we get the system upgrades, we may be able to have all sorts of reports for you at that point, right?
Then it's no work.
Huh?
And then it's no work.
Then it's no worry. But currently in the Manuel process that we have, it's not very good.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Keys.
Since, even though they're appointed by the council, I think they typically, I guess, report to the planning and zoning administrator or the zoning administrator. Is that correct? So if we were to get, let's say, a quarterly report from the zoning administrator, would that suffice? Would that meet the intent in the letter of the ordinance?
On the appointed.
Yes. If the zoning administrator gave those reports on their behalf, since they ostensibly, or I guess officially, at least dotted line report to him. So would that be agreeable to you?
Yes, as long as if it's in the code that we're getting some report that, that we get that report.
Okay.
I so amend my motion.
Okay.
Aye.
All right,
Does-
and
more?
I have one more thing,
Okay.
but again, just curious, and then the next section, section 7-1-3, phone-in permit system. Do we have that in place?
Mhm.
Okay. I
We
did not know
do.
that. Thank you. Is it
Yes.
used?
Yes, and it's
Yes,
painful.
Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna just tell you it's painful, and we're trying, so we're gonna, when we get this online thing completed, we're hoping that that will go away, so it doesn't, so it takes away all the extra phone calls that our one single building tech is handling on top of everything else that he's doing. But we do have that in place. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is all I had. Thank you for your patience.
No, this is, it's not discussed at you, it's just that all the work that they're doing over there, these guys are swimming inside there. So, okay.
So I have an amended motion on the table.
Okay, we have an amended motion. Do we have an amended second?
I think that's you.
Sure. We got an amended motion, amended second. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Councilman Hershey,
Aye.
Councilman Keys.
Aye.
Councilwoman Solmonson,
Aye.
Councilman Nielsen.
Aye.
That motion carries. Went off on la la land there, looking at our next one. Sorry, apologize. Okay, on to item 6D, ordinance number 318, Hortoman annexation.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 318, Hortoman property annexation and zoning, and ordinance annexing to the city of Star certain real property located in the unincorporated area of Ada County, Idaho, more specifically located at 12576 West New Hope Road in Star, Idaho, Ada County parcel number R728-477-0600, and contiguous to the city of Star. Property is owned by the Hortoman Family Trust, establishing the zoning classification of the annexed property as residential with a development agreement, R2DA, of approximately 10.16 acres, directing that certified copies of this ordinance be filed as provided by law, providing for related manners, and providing for an effective date.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll call vote.
Councilman Hershey,
Aye.
Councilman Keys,
Aye.
Councilwoman Solmonson,
Aye.
Councilman Nielsen.
Aye.
Hearing all ayes, that motion carries. On to item 6E.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Keys.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 319, open shop property annexation and zoning, and ordinance annexing to the city of Star certain real property located in the unincorporated area of Ada County, Idaho, more specifically located at 1665 North Brandon Road in Star, Idaho, Ada County parcel number S0405336110, and contiguous to the city of Star. The property is owned by the Philip Openshaw, establishing the zoning classification of the annexed property as residential with a development agreement, R2DA, of approximately 10.61 acres, directing that certified copies of this ordinance be filed as provided by law, providing for related matters, and providing for an effective date.
Got a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Councilman Hershey,
Aye.
Councilman Keys.
Aye.
Councilwoman Solmonson,
Aye.
Councilman Nielsen.
Aye.
That motion, hearing all ayes, that motion carries. On to item 6F.
Mayor Chadwick. Oh, go ahead, Jen.
Okay.
Councilwoman Salmonson, please.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman Solomon.
I move to approve ordinance number 320, Haven Ranch annexation and zoning. An ordinance annexing to the city of Star certain real property located in the unincorporated area of Ada County, Idaho, more specifically located at 2645 North Brandon Road in Star, Idaho, Ada County parcel 6267300100 and contiguous to the city of Star. The property is owned by the CHJL LLC. Establishing this, am I doing it right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay,
Keep going.
establishing the zoning classification of the annexed property as residential with a development agreement R1-DA of approximately 5.18 acres. Directing that certified copies of this ordinance be filed as provided by law, providing for related matters and provided for an effective date.
Second,
Okay, we got a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
can we have the roll call? vote
Hearing
go
none.
opposite?
Hearing none, roll call vote.
Don't take this away from me. Councilman Hershey,
Aye.
Councilman Keys,
Aye.
Councilwoman Solomon,
Aye.
Councilman Nielsen,
Aye.
Hearing all ayes, that motion carries. On to item 7, reports. Chief.
Mayor, Council, Jake Vogt, Chief of Police here in Star, Idaho. Come before you to report our new deputy in town. I wanted to come introduce him. As you know, Deputy Jonathan Steele was selected for the detective position. So John is effectively taking that open patrol position. So John comes to us from San Diego County Sheriff's Office, where he had a little over 12 years experience down there. Patrol, he went to detectives, was a narcotics detective, and also part of a joint terrorism task force with the FBI. So he brings a lot of good experience. He's currently assigned our graveyard shift, which is 7:45 at night to 6:30 in the morning. Part of that shift, he's by himself. And so he's got the training, the experience, the demeanor to be able to handle, some pretty serious things at night and get them under control and until the rest of the cavalry can get here. So one thing I've been very fortunate the last couple of years to serve on the oral board selection committee for the sheriff's office as a whole for new patrol officers. It's myself and 2 other command level personnel. Sometimes when the officers come through and come in front of me, there's just something about them that really makes me want to steal them as soon as I can. And not only was Jonathan Steele one of those, and I think you guys were aboard at the same time, if I remember right. So also John Taylor here was one of those where I want to try and steal him as soon as I can. So I stole John Steele, and now I'm stealing John Taylor to take his spot. So he's going to be he's been here a couple weeks now. This is the first time he's had a chance to get in front of the council. So
I see that you're in uniform with the appropriate stash too, so that's good.
Almost that time of year.
So, and that segues into my next. We are going to be doing the fundraiser, the No Shave November again. And like we did last year, the money, we pitch in money to participate, and that money gets collected and we use that to give back to community somehow. Somebody needs gas money, somebody needs, this or that. We can help use that money to give back to some citizens that need some help. So I have not started mine yet, but I will November 1st.
Sweet. Well, welcome aboard.
So,
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
I'm also a resident of Star, so I look forward to
Oh,
serving my
cool.
community.
Awesome.
So Deputy Taylor, so it sounds like you're very well trained, but think you're up to do a ride along with the cranky councilman next week?
Absolutely.
We'll talk.
I didn't plan it.
Dave didn't plan one. Awesome.
All right. Thank you,
Very
Mayor,
good.
Council.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right, let's make our reports quick. Councilman Hershey has family here, so we got to get him out. Anything for you guys?
I just want to say to John, go Aztecs.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're gonna have to send you the Eagle. He was good. Nothing? Okay, David?
Actually, no, my committees meet the first of the month, so
Okay,
they reported themselves.
Councilman Keys?
Mr. Mayor, I'll hold the rest of my report until later, but I did want to report, I attended the Star Sewer and Water District Board meeting here last week, and everything that they're working on is on track, except for the plant improvements that they're working on to meet the new EPA standards. They're about 3 months behind schedule due to COVID, but they're still set to meet the EPA deadline or beat the EPA deadline by 2 years.
Oh, good.
That's
Okay.
all.
All right. Councilwoman Solomon?
I will make mine quick as well. I had my monthly air quality board meeting on Monday. If you have any questions, let me know. And I'm excited. Saturday, I'm going to meet with our local station owner and have a tour and learn, what the station owners
Oh,
do.
from right over here. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, he's a good
So
guy.
I'm really excited about that.
Okay.
And that's it. Thank
All
you.
right. Councilman Nielsen?
Nothing really to report, except that Meredith, I wasn't trying to roll call for you. I was just wondering if you do it in reverse order this time.
He's tired of being at the back.
I miss it.
You're gonna see that in the
I-
future.
I caught that you did, it was a joke.
That was awesome.
I really wasn't trying to take your job from you.
Just a couple things here on my end. The 960 Main location is moving along. They installed doors and windows today. So they're looking at the second to third week of November to be completed, barring any challenges that we may have. We did have fish dropped at the pond over here with Fish and Game, so they're gonna get us on a regularly scheduled stocking program for that, and then we're gonna start working on that project over there. Don't forget, tomorrow is that call with the sub area south of the river plan. Call, I think at 11:30, right? And you all should have a Zoom invite or something in your email. Oh, Microsoft Teams invite in your emails for that. I am still working with them on pricing to do a architectural overlay in our CBD. I'm asking them to give us a price. They gave me a price, and we think that they're overthinking it because of the price. So I think we're going to try to narrow that down a little bit. What else we got? Anything else?
Our traffic report,
The traffic impact study?
the signal study.
So we had the traffic impact study that came back that we did between Seneca Springs and Highway 16. And that traffic study came back favorable for us having lights at Moyle and at Seneca Springs both. And so today we did send the letter with that report to ITD, and they're aware of the positive results. And we sent it to ACHD also for them to look at as well, so we can try to move forward with that. Yeah, so that worked out well. Okay, cool. With that said, we will adjourn. Thank you very much.